Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing look at Black Ice 3's, blah, 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 blah. Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice 10.4. Now, so far it's looking really good. A bit of news that you may or may not have noticed, but as of recording this, it'll maybe be the end of last week by the time you're seeing this. They've announced in a dev diary for Hearts of Iron 4 that they are in the next major update adding railroads in. Finally, railroads. They look good. For France, with their map, it's sort of simplistic railroads in the sense, if you got, now their map, this is more like a territory in Hearts of Iron, or maybe at least 2 of these instead of 4 or whatever. They got a bunch of railroads that are sort of simplistic going around. There are provinces here without proper railroads, I would say, especially if you get into some of these mountains here that, there may be none here because they all go through Geneva and around this other way and whatever. And I totally, because, typing text, talking, not like what I'm doing now. But I've talked to Podcat about railroads a long time ago, and he was, I hope I'm not going to make it, I didn't get any, I hope I influenced a little bit, but it was basically, no, not needed, nope. Infrastructure represents railroads. And, of course, they moved infrastructure to their sort of provincial level instead of their territorial level. I don't like that. A lot of things I don't like with Hearts of Iron 4. But, with sort of Central Europe here, largely infrastructure can sort of do both road level infrastructure and railway, but when you get out to here, control of the railways is, there's, just a few railways coming all the way through here, and if you don't control them, you should be cutting off of transfer, especially like resources and other supplies, and so your supply throughput. Now they have supply definition, and words mean things. There are supply effects in Hearts of Iron 4. There are supplies as a thing in Hearts of Iron 3. That I don't think is changing. They now have oil and fuel in Hearts of Iron 4, which is good as a thing and not just effects. This makes me a lot friendlier to Hearts of Iron 4. I don't want to do it. I'd love to sort of head up a project of developing a proper map once the railroads come out for Hearts of Iron 4 that would be a mix of what they have and what this is here, a map. I think it could be done. There's things that could be done. Okay, that's what that bit of news. That's really good news for Hearts of Iron 4, because unfortunately, however much I love this game, and I do love this game, and I know Oh My God and team are, actually squeezing blood out of the stones. It is still a dead game. There is going to be no, major improvements. And there's a future out there, and I'm looking, I know you young kids, and I'm even talking to 20 and 30-year-olds to some degree, 5-10 years down the road seems like forever. They want the game now. I'm looking, what are we going to be playing in 10 years? Are we going to be stuck playing this? There's going to be no better grand strategy game for World War II? Because there's sure as hell nothing that I know of yet out of Slytherin, which recently, as of today, when I'm recording this on Thursday, reaffirmed their dedication to war games. People say, well, no, this game's a strategy game. Yeah, it's at a core, it's a war, with whatever. They're not talking about Hearts of Iron 4, but they're a war games making company. I know I could come up with a game that could rival. I can't program it, but I could, again, whiteboard it. A game that would be an excellent game that would have elements of, be a grad strategy, be a take on an improvement from this. But 10 years from now, are we still, is this going to be it? Or is it going to just, or can Hearts of Iron 4 continue down a path to better development? Or can Hearts of Iron 5 or whatever might come someday? So I'm looking at the future as well as now for me. That's important. And so, yeah, this is dead. This is not the future. I mean, or it's dead or dying. That doesn't mean we won't play it, but there's got to be something that can be better than whatever the Black Ice team can come out of this. Now, I would be happy to keep playing this as a nostalgia game if you want to watch it. Now, as Klaus said, the numbers, particularly in the last episode, really sucked. I don't know why, whether it was the thumbnail I did, the day of the week, I don't know. Also, I do think, and I hope, that one of the reasons viewing numbers isn't great is because I have informed you that this is not the major game that I'm going to be playing, because this is a look at it until we get TRE working. But I need to test out, and I need to see how this game plays, what needs to be changed before I go in and start working on TRE. So you have to, there's a lot of lead time to all this. And I'm hoping that when TRE is released, I have that. I have GGA's release and all this stuff all released and ready to go, that there will be big interest in that playthrough. I really hope so. If there isn't, this dies too, because I've got to do something that gets interest. Now we're also going to be starting, as I'm making this tomorrow, we'll be making the first episodes of War in the East 2 Grand Campaign, and it'll be more than just me. But yeah, so there's a lot of exciting things happening. Definitely looking forward to stuff. I want there to be a future. I need your help for the future. So yeah, please watch, like the episodes. Hey, if you really can't watch this now, or some episode, it'd be really great. If you're, whether you're a dedicated fan of mine, which is sort of seems strange to me, but dedicated viewer, or dedicated viewer to want a series like this continue, hell, just open the window, turn the sound off, and have the game play, not watch it. Just get views on the game. Hit that like button. Share it on any sort of platform. Post a link to it in the Black Ice forum. Nobody does that. If you did that, it would be hugely helpful. Anything like that to get viewing numbers up. And it's got to be, it can't just be me doing this. If you guys care enough about this, because trust me, I do put these up on other platforms. I do share this stuff. I do with that. But if you want this to go on, I need the help. It doesn't have, this has to be a partnership. This isn't just, because I guess I'm just not that great to motivate people to share this on other platforms, some other place that you're just not. So, you haven't emailed a friend, you've got to watch this episode. I guess I'm not that good. Which means things may eventually have to change here somehow. Okay, transport ship hull advance. That is this one, which we were working towards that. So now we have to just get marine activation, which we are mainly waiting for amphibious warfare equipment, which we are currently researching. and the base construction, which we only recently, it's over here, recently started. So that'll be a little while. Okay. So yeah, that's the motivational talk, guys. Whether you want to do it for me to help me out, that would be cool, or you just want to do it for you because you want to have a series like this, like the grand campaign, that when we really do play it, happen. I will need your help, because without that motivation, it will die. And yeah, to a point, it comes down to me. Am I interesting enough for you guys to want to do that? Okay, Bulgaria canceled the trades with us. Find themselves to the axis. Okay. We are producing rares extraction, which will help a rares situation as we continue to expand all of these factories. We got lots of steel mills coming in, which I don't know. Well, somebody who's a genius can do math in their head, complex math in their head could know. But because these are percentage modifiers, so it depends on the base on the, on provincial level here as to whether they will actively help. Now I'm also noticing we're down a bit on energy or coal, as it's supposed to be energy. There is definitely some of this is done as hydroelectric dams, which you can sort of do hydroelectric trading, send power lines into nearby countries. Okay. Now, of course, see this number here is, I guess, base 16. That's where really what I should be looking at is base 20. So that would be better to put it there. That base 12. Base not much. Base 36. Now that's definitely a coal field that would be worth. I remember a day that when I used to play, I would really base 25. Really look into this stuff, because when I used to play, maybe not so much testing like this, but really play. I played much slower. But try to keep things moving and interesting. Retirement, Paul Ludwig Kleist. Okay, no need. I'm gonna go no need. Okay. Well, maybe we will. Because maybe we'll get Panzergruppe Kleist later on. So we'll let him retire, but we'll call him back later. Hopefully. Okay. Welded plate armor construction. Is that here under... no, that is here. So, yeah, that's... And I do take a lot of viewers' suggestions seriously. Oh, well, hey, I play, Total War Rome Remix or whatever it's called that's just out. Well, I have to look at sheer numbers and not just suggestions by people. And the way YouTube works, if I make a great video for Total War crowd out there, and there's huge numbers of people watching it, that doesn't mean that any of those people will ever see my video. because they want to show my video to you who already watch this channel. And if the people who watch this channel aren't running to watch those types of videos, it doesn't do good. It's really sort of strange. So, okay. So yeah, play this or that nation. Refining techniques, which I think is over here. And I do want the suggestions, don't get me wrong, but metallurgy allows high density alloys. Okay. But rare materials at 13%, which will continue to help, which we are still in the green, but as you can see, wouldn't take too long for us to get out of the green with our continued expansion. So, and I do want to know what you guys are thinking that should play, whether, play this or that country. Well, yeah, it had been for a major series, play Germany, then play a different nation, then play Germany, then play a different nation. And that's sort of what I'm keeping up with, but we've yet to get to the proper German series. The 10.3 thing was a disaster. This is testing. And I want to rather have some... Well, partially the reason I'm blathering is I don't have much else to say right at the moment about what's going on in the game. So I might as well talk to you about something. Silence is not golden in these types of environments. Since I want to keep, if you stop clicking on my videos, YouTube stops recommending them. And if you're only here for Hearts of Iron 3 games, then you're not clicking on the videos because I'm not showing any Hearts of Iron 3 games. When I start playing Hearts of Iron 3 again, and I've noticed this with my big hiatus from Hearts of Iron 3, I lose a bunch of you people, not maybe because you don't want to watch Hearts of Iron 3 games, but you don't know that I've been putting them out there again. So, that really affects things. So this is one reason I'm just continuing with making these, even though this won't be a proper long played series. Monumental Architectural Advance. That is here, I think. Yes, okay. Now, what I think we have here is nothing yet. Okay, I was wondering if we were going to have a new monumental building to pass. Yeah, naval bombers, that works. Naval strike tactics. That would be this one. And we're going to let that continue. Because we're not going to build a big navy, but we're going to use our air power to help control the oceans. Third show trials. The first two did so well. We're going to do more of them. Let's see. Okay, let's see the plans. Good. Broadcasting advance and mass event. Happened. Okay. 1940s, go. Goodbye. Now that the decision happened, we can see all of these, and again, partially for me, partially for you. Let's take a quick look. Okay, it won't be those. Spirit Police, Imperial Seat of Government. We've got the universities, advanced education. War Ministry, we don't quite need that yet. I mean, that's all really good, but we're not at war yet. Ruling party support, that's nice. Counter-espionage, all that's nice. Ruling party support, that would be good, but money's hit pretty hard there. This is what I already sort of guessed that I would want to be doing, is what they're calling the Imperial Seat of Government. Decent enough term. Leadership modifier 2%, great territorial pride. Again, we don't need that really right now. National unity, though, we could use. I mean, we have plenty, but it would, still good. But ruling party support 10% would be really nice. Right now, research efficiency as opposed to leadership. Efficiency is good, but leadership's a little more dynamic. But that's not bad. Anything that doesn't have too many negatives is not bad. So, yes, I think now Imperial Seat of Government. Make sure I get to the right one. Yes, we're going to build this. Supplies, money, dissent is one of the sort of, for me, biggest oops, in this. I know it represents building costs, not just actual dissent, but if you want to get it down, you need to have that worked on. Okay, we're going to be having these hit very soon, which is good. And of course, we also have some more free slots here. Okay, air liaison, ground attack. There we go. And once some of that kicks in, we'll and can we get a trade deal with the Soviet Union, selling them some supplies? Okay, they got 12. Let's yeah, there we go. Yes, there we go. New ambassador. More leadership because of that. Let's look here at command. Okay. Yeah, let's do armored. Destroyer crew training. Not that these are all battlefield concentration. We're gonna stop that now. I think, yeah. Those, we can wait though for that. We want to do this, but it only really helps us once the war starts. I think it's reasonably well balanced between some of these things. How much leadership versus doing all this stuff. But the idea that you're doing cruiser crew training and battleship crew training and destroyer crew training, really, is it really that different? Now, training for sailors, training for surface ships, and training for submarine crews, absolutely. Those are very, very different things. Yeah, we could do that. That I totally get. That's not just sailor training or something like that. I totally get and agree with the idea of surface ships and maybe small boat tactics. You could also get me, which may be the destroyer one, but cruisers and battleships. Carriers, just because they're flight decks. The guy who works down in the the engine rooms or the anti-aircraft gunners, they're basically the same training. But there's enough specialization because of the flight decks that I could see that being its own thing. Okay, we're going to, let's get the one that's going to take the longest. Start at first, 38. Some of those are needed to get more than just one. You can have energy to be able to unlock the next thing. So start with the one that takes the most time. Does anybody else think that maybe, that maybe Britain should start with the imperial seat of government effective already? Let's examine this for the moment. I know I'm stopping the thing. And why not everybody else that have it? And not just because it says it's imperial in the British Empire. You know, but I'm looking at the idea that the Soviet Union takes over the Russian Empire, basically. I mean, and eventually, of course, they get most of it back. I mean, they don't get Finland back, but they get the Baltic states. They get, well, eventually, parts of Poland back and lose it, and then have it as a puppet state after the war. So yeah, they more or less get the Russian Empire back. And whether they should have it by 1936 or not, they definitely don't have an imperial seat of government in 1920 or 1924 or something like that, because they've destroyed the bureaucratic structure of the czars. This is not an inheritance situation, so they're building their imperial, not just national but imperial, kind of linking all these various elements together. Seat of government. So they shouldn't have it. Germany, well, it sort of does to a degree inherit, definitely, the Kaiser's empire, through the Weimar. But I could still see the Nazification, the building of the imperial seat of government for Germany is happening around this time under the Nazis. I could see that, so that it shouldn't start with the game. Italy. It's Garibaldi's Italy. Garibaldi is the guy who sort of unifies Italy. Italy is not a unified country until his revolutions and wars of independence and all of that stuff. And so in World War One, it is. The Italian government had wars with pseudo-Turkish Empire stuff, taking, Libya. But its organizing up of the imperial seat of government is continuing before Mussolini comes to power, like I say, but may not be fully realized, may not even be fully realized under Mussolini. But I could see that as still sort of a growing thing. So maybe you don't start the war with that, but maybe by 36, or start the war, but start the game. Maybe by 36 it would have it. Maybe, because the fascists are much more entrenched. They don't have total control by any means, but they're more entrenched. Well before the Nazis are. France, yep, they've got a lot of sort of colonial empire, but a lot of it is just sort of like, yeah, we control these deserts, and it's not a very deep empire. It's not a lot of settlers. I mean, they're definitely trying to do that up here, which is what Italy's trying to replicate in their North African. The idea that this is France and not a French colony, where this is a protectorship or whatever. This is supposed to be France. And they don't have the idea that, like the British with the large settlements. Oh, the emus are revolting, I guess. The Great Emu War of Australia. Look that up if you don't know about it. These are, and then like in Canada, you have a lot of settlers. You don't have that nearly to the scale that France does, or that Britain does. That France doesn't have it there. So maybe France wouldn't have an imperial seat of government. Maybe it would. To start, Japan. Japan, no, definitely not. Yes, I know it has an emperor, but and it's for considerable time. We've had Korea and island of Formosa here, but not really, because part of what I take with an imperial seat of government is an integrated government over either a large area or over multicultural viewpoints and trying to organize and get them, sort of the best out of them to a greater or lesser degree. Now, the United States, should it start? No, I do not think so. We're seeing it being built now under FDR. The repression, the foundation comes in going from these United States of America in 1860 to the United States of America in 1865 at the end of the Civil War, and it is not divisible. But the central primacy of federal central authority really comes in under Wilson in World War I and his rather heavy-handed authoritarianness over any dissent on the war. But the imperial seat of government is being built now, starting in roughly 33 or so, with the New Deal, the New Deal plan with the NRA, and it's not the National Rifle Association, it's the National Recovery Act. That was that you're really seeing the building of and sort of the big end of it. It's continuing to grow, obviously, in the United States, but you really see the culmination physically in the Pentagon that's built, after completed after the war is over. But so the U.S. in 1936 shouldn't start with an imperial seat of government, and I'm just talking for the 50 United States. I'm not talking anything else. So, but Britain, you have, yes, I know they've gotten levels of independence for Canada, Australia, New Zealand, absolutely, and then you have, direct control over other places. Now, India doesn't look like this, meaning it's not this. There's patches of puppet states, maybe you want to call them, internally independent, so long as they don't go off the rails too far, but otherwise they can do what they want. So there's it isn't one big thing like this. And South Africa is not an independent state. I think it's it's a puppet state, definitely. Not just a Commonwealth state. It is a puppet because the Boers weren't terribly pleased with what's going on. They see very much British repression. And Egypt, of course, as they nationalize it mostly for the AI's problems with it, but it has its own army and it's sort of a protectorate. So it isn't all 100. It isn't all the same everywhere. Yes, this was still directly ruled by Britain and not by Canada. But you can talk about how, well, they may not be getting the best out of, the Indians or whatever, as Central Empire. Yeah, I know, but they're still organizing things up pretty damn well with this stuff. So I would give Britain at the start of the game the imperial seat of government trait. Now, maybe it does have it, but I don't think so. Okay, yes, you can have that. So I would argue, that's why I give, because I know enough about the situation, I give Germany level 1 and TRE level 1s of the 3 radio capabilities, and I give Britain 2 of the 3 at the start of the game, where the US have massive amounts of radio channels. They've already gone through a radio bubble that burst at about 3/4 or more of the radio stations disappear, because it would be like little towns, well, big towns, little cities, big towns that would have 3 or 4 radio stations, and they just don't literally have enough viewer or listeners to, make it profitable for the amount of advertising. So, they all start up, and then there's a big, the bubble bursts. But there's still a massive network of radio stations all over America, but they're not centralized and organized like the Germans, like the British with the BBC. And that really only, powers up during this period, and particularly the war period, powers up, national broadcasting, centralization capabilities. Okay, ground attack tactics. I think that's... No, it's not that. Okay, it's this one. Okay, we may be back to that, but we are looking... Oh, I think we want to do some of the submarine first. So because I don't think everything should be a zero-sum game at the start and you build from it. I think some nations should have some, like the TRE also gives Germany, like I know I've talked about, national highways. America does not have national highways until the Eisenhower administration after World War II, and his experience of seeing Germany's national highways and sets it up. So there is, not that there's not highways, but it's nothing like we would think of as a national highway system. So it's not just whether a nation has a highway or 3 or whatever, but is it an organized setup in 1936 kind of thing, is what I'm looking at it, at least. And obviously the Soviet Union doesn't have that. Britain doesn't have it. I think they do have well, before the war, I'm not sure when. I think they do have a few things that you would call highways. Not quite Autobahn level, and definitely not a national integration of highways around. And France definitely doesn't have that. Italy, doesn't have that. So it's really only Germany is well on its way to having that, if not. Okay, we can do the Anschluss of Austria. In 1936, and yes, it continues to improve over time from 36, but okay. TRE will have a lot more of this someday, because I made it for TRE for 4 that I'm porting back to 3, covering this. Basically, what is happening, or what has happened, is in roughly, I think sorry, because I'm just going off the top of my head, I don't remember dates. Dollfuss, I think that's his name, is the president of Austria, of the Fatherland. He's from the Fatherland Front. He is a fascist president of Austria. Is assassinated by a Nazi under maybe local party. Meaning he just didn't do it on his own, but they really didn't talk to Berlin or whatever about that, to the best of my knowledge. And I don't think it was a bad idea for the Nazi government. I don't think Hitler wanted it to happen. Really don't think Hitler wanted it to happen. Assassinate the leader of Austria in 1933, I think it was. That was a really bad thing. It gets the Nazi Party banned in Austria. So that is a counterproductive thing that I don't think the central Nazis would have approved. Well, of course, Hitler, who was born in Austria, in Linz area. Well, maybe more on the border. There's Linz. It's somewhere around. He's born. But so they're banned. They're still operating, but they're a banned party. The Austrian government is fascist. Once Hindenburg dies and there's no longer a need for a vice chancellor because Hitler's now the Fuhrer and there's no longer a president, for a while, oh boy, just as I'm saying things, names escape me. The vice chancellor, trying to keep my name. Vice Chancellor guy, Franz von Papen. See, I know all this stuff, people. Sorry, I just sometimes blank on things. Franz von Papen is no longer Vice Chancellor. He's sort of adrift for a while. But then they sent him to Austria as sort of plenipotentiary or sort of super ambassador for Germany. And his main mission is to work on unification of Austria and Germany. Now, Franz von Papen is a German of Catholic religion. So that's one of the things they figure he would do well in Austria. And so he works to normalize relations between Germany and Austria. There may be another official ambassador below him, but he is the main representative of Germany and Austria. They eventually get the Austrian Nazi Party unbanned, but that's only just sort of shortly before what happens. And so Schuschnigg is in charge of Austria, who takes over after Dollfuss gets killed. And he's a fascist as well, not a Nazi, a fascist. Looks in the beginning of 1936, Schuschnigg signs the Three Powers Pact with Mussolini and, or his government does. I don't know if he goes to it, actually. But I think it's his foreign minister. And Admiral Horthy of Austria as an anti-Nazi military alliance, backed primarily by Mussolini. And so that's what's going on. There's a lot of popularity for unification of Austria with Germany in Austria. A lot of it. There is actually an attempt at unification right around 1919, 1920. But that gets stepped on very hard by the Allies, saying, no, you will not unify. So they're breaking up the old Austro-Hungarian Empire. This is not just from a particular, right-wing fascist nationalist Nazi whatever movement. It was popular with the Austrian socialists, the Austrian left, whatever you want to call them. They wanted to unify as well with the then Germany. So it is not just on right or left wing politics or whatever in Austria. Well, Schuschnigg, who is not a Nazi, and doesn't really want Austria to unify with the Nazis. Yes, he's a fascist. His breaks a lot of people's viewpoints of things, and is trying to hold Austria together. He believes that a combination of things, the idea that, say, the Austrian left, some are socialists, some, I don't know, communists or whatever, the Austrian left, whatever that may mean, whatever there is of, and I don't know all the parties in Austria, sorry, the Austrians, many of the Austrian center, and then those particularly loyal to the Fatherland Front and the idea, and even though they are a fascist group, they are not anti-monarchist. So those that are still believe in the in Otto. Oh, why do I always do this to myself? Um, the Habsburgs, the Habsburgs, um, the Habsburgs monarchists, shall we say, um, will vote to support maintaining an independent Austria. So he sets up an election, or a plebiscite, I should say, not on him or his government, but just should Austria unify with Germany. He is hoping, because he is under a lot, his government is under a lot of pressure from Germany. Should they um, unify? Now, Hitler sent 1936. I don't know. It was in 38 as this happens, fairly early. I think maybe March or something like that. Since 36, Hitler has been courting, even before that, but courting very hard. Mussolini is, hey, we're not going to be a danger if we move into Austria, because Mussolini, yeah, is worried about a big power north of them, and yeah, having a buffer state may be good, but what he's really worried about is this area here that was part of Austria-Hungary, and this area here, which Trieste was, I would say, mostly a German-speaking city, at least, under the Austrian Empire, and definitely the Austrian Empire's primary Austrian port, where this over here was sort of the somewhere around here, whether it's Fiume or whatever, was the sort of Hungarian main external port. But so he's worried about Germany, maybe also wanting to get like Slovenia back into, which they eventually do during World War II. He's worried about Hitler's German expansionism into what is currently Italian territory. That's his primary worry. And he knows that it would be much better to raise troops to defend the Brenner Pass and some of these other mountains with Austrian help against the German invasion, as opposed to defending the actual Italian border. But he's been convinced, and basically gives more or less permission for Hitler to take Austria, and that Italy won't interfere. That's sort of happening. So Schuschnigg is worried about all of this. So he thinks the best thing he can do right now is to get it on a vote on record that, hey, we want to be independent. We're Austrians. Now, I don't know what Hitler and or the Nazi Party thought the outcome of the election was going to be. I think, you can see in this, I presume is a picture from it. I'm not sure because I didn't make it. But I think, and you're always going to get with one of these type of things, a large, huge crowd is ecstatic for German occupation, for German, like it happens in Danzig or wherever. I'm not talking about going into some foreign country, but in a German thing, because there's going to be a 20% of the population that's just going to be ecstatic, and they're going to go show up and cheer. So the idea that there's a photo of a bunch of ecstatic people doesn't mean that most people would be ecstatic. So I'm not sure whether they thought they were going to win or not. But I know from some of my readings, and it's been a long time, that Hitler was worried about, even if they won the election, even if it's a victory, that it might just be, a 55% victory or a 60% victory. Well, that means, 40% of the Austrians don't want unification. Hitler doesn't want that to happen. Hitler wants it to appear to be a I'm just looking at this, so close to having a good defensive line here versus Germany. You could just move this unit to here. and move, if this is all the divisions you have, and move the cavalry unit, I don't know, to these hills or Salzburg, which, I mean, it's a nice picture, but it's, I don't know. Let's look at this map. Okay, yeah, hills or forests. And so you got a mountain division and an infantry division holding the mountains. Yeah, that would be the best line, but nope, the AI. We got a hold out here. What's out here? What is out here that is there any population to hold? No fucking, I mean, this is why the AI is just, it doesn't understand that it doesn't need to hold that. Yes, as sort of an anchor point, and that there's some resources and industry here, that Innsbruck is a good place to hold. And then it's not holding there, which is good, because it's holding this line here. That's fine. This may not be the best choice, but coming back here is not necessarily any better. So yeah, it's so close. What you could do with, if they were to script in defensive plans, you could make primary threat Germany. Send troops to this sort of plans. You could do that, but no, they won't. This is why I talk about how this is dead. This game is dead. Hearts of Iron 4, there's still hope for, but they won't even do it there. Come up with their point was, well, if we do this, people will just learn how to defeat and so we need dynamic. Yeah, but your dynamic sucks worse than I can come up with 10 defensive priority settings, whatever, for Austria, depending on its threat levels as it perceives them. And go from there. Okay, so there's going to be this plebiscite. Hitler, or I think they think it's likely to win, but even if they win, it won't be big enough. So Hitler orders a military invasion of Austria. Now, prior to this, there has been an Austrian SS element that has been training up in Germany, and these guys are hardcore dedicated terrorist types that would be willing to do terrorist-like actions. There is a sort of forbidden but existing SA movement, and the Nazi Party has been no longer banned. Political uniforms are still banned, but yeah, so and so Germany was prepared for a military action. I think if it came down to it, they would use elements of the SS groups that were sort of formed of Austrians inside of Germany. They were brought into Germany, that would be sent back in plain clothes or whatever into Austria, and to create incidences that would then give the excuse for German invasions. That's how I think it would have, that they were thinking that we may need to do this. Now, and I'm also noticing, yeah, this is mountain or hills, and you should put the mountain division in the mountains. Come on, guys. Yeah, okay. But Hitler decides, okay, military invasion, go, go, go. We can't let them have their plebiscite. And so there's this military invasion that the Austrian military, and I've also found leading up to this, they had modernized to some degree, got a lot better. This is really I think, if this is what I think it is, though I don't, seeing it has wagon transport. Huh? Come on, people. If this is the Schnell division here, it had some armored cars that the SS takes over. It has CV-33s. Those are one model of the CV. Those are the Italian tankettes that, for Italy, have 2 machine guns in them, no turrets. You know, those little 2-man vehicles. They go down to 1 machine gun. You have a big bulbous metal jacket that goes over, because they use the Austrian Schwarzlose machine gun that has a water jacket, but metal armor around it. I don't know what happens to those vehicles. The SS uses, and you can actually see at least one photo of one of them, the armored cars being used up in Danzig at the beginning of World War II. And the SS just uses them as, occupation duty armored cars. I've seen maybe some photos early on, like in occupying Austria, taking over the CV-33s, but I don't know where they end up. I've never seen, like, much later, a year later or whatever, them using the CV-33s as anything. So I don't know if they turn them over to, somebody like Hungary or Romania, who I know has some, or whatever, and get converted over to use whatever the local machine guns, or given back to Italy. I don't know. But so it wasn't really an armored division. It just has these really light tanks, some armored cars, and is sort of and they also have some other little track thingy. I've seen some film from this time period of the Austrians, driving around in the CV-33s. But it's really more of a motorized rapid response brigade or something that's called a division. And there's some mounted units as well, I do believe. Horse units, cavalry units, whatever, dragoons. I don't know what technically they were. Probably mostly meant to ride a horse to the battle, get off the horse, and shoot the rifle kind of thing. And then when you want to move around again, get back on the horse and ride to the next spot. But it's sort of a mixed force, so they had that as a rapid reaction force. But they also, had set up more conscription into the Austrian army leading up to this. Well, basically, the Austrian army does not oppose the military invasion, and we're going to grab this. And this may be more to the historical orders of battle, is not opposed by Germany. So, Bundeswehr, okay, that has a full cavalry regiment, motorized infantry, armored cars, divisional support or motorized support. It has a Panzer, okay, Force Licht division, okay. That would sort of be this. I don't know if they should have both of these, but okay. I just don't know. That would be the CV-33s. Call it Licht tractors here, but that would be, if you really wanted to do these, you would make this unit a sort of, what's going to happen to this unit now is it's going to upgrade to current German light armor. But if you were to make it as if it were a licensed build thing from Italy, it would stay sucky and not get to better light armor. I mean, it'll stay light armor unless you change it, but do want to upgrade to armor battalion or whatever, but otherwise it cancel. But you could do that, but if you really wanted to be historical and correct, as it were, let's just get this into do that just so that's under a hierarchical group. But yeah, because you can do and specify sort of what it's under, in that way it would not get upgraded, which I would think which would be cool. And so either you decide to scrap it or have just a really sucky armor unit there. Okay, well, I think we're going to end this episode here. Thank you so much. If you've made it this far and if you can help grow the channel, I really do appreciate it. See you next time for more, yes, even more Hearts of Iron.